Hi guys, welcome back to Girl Therapy. I'm your host, Nicole. I hope everybody had a fabulous week. Thank you for coming back this week for this episode, which I'm really excited about. Okay, updates. Actually, none. Every week I'm like, no updates. Everything's been really good. I have nothing to say. I had an amazing weekend. I celebrated my friend's birthday early. We got a nice brunch. I went bowling. I go home next weekend, I believe it is, for just a couple days. So I'll be in Connecticut celebrating my friend's bridal shower. So that's exciting. The one whose bachelor I was just on. And I'm trying to think what else. Don't really have anything else planned coming up. But yeah. Those are my updates. So I feel like if you're on TikTok, which I feel like most of you are, that's probably why you're here watching me, you've probably seen the videos going around about this one influencer, and then a few others have been mentioned, but I only really stalked the one and I honestly can't remember her name. She is an influencer who promotes eating disorders. Like, she promotes unhealthy eating. She promotes an unhealthy relationship with food by just basically being like, how I stay skinny, how like do this, do that. And it's just like, girl, like, she's like, I would rather be called bones than like curvy or thick any day. It's just, it's not like, okay, if that's how you feel, cool. Love that for you. Keep that to yourself, but like, don't project it onto everybody else, especially if you have such a large following. Don't put those impressions on other people and then also the younger generation. So also, just trigger warning really quick, we're going to be talking about like eating disorders, over exercising, but this episode's really just going to be about body image and, you know, switching the narrative and having a positive mindset towards exercise and everything like that. So hopefully, if anything you gain from this episode, I'm not going to speak about anything, I don't think, in like a really triggering manner, but if you're somebody who's easily triggered about stuff like that, please don't listen. But I think if anything, I hope that this episode will help you and put your mind at ease and really just make you feel better and being happy with your body and celebrating all bodies and kind of changing the language behind how we speak to ourselves and how we look at exercise. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey with that, and then also just what I hate about this right now. Also, just quickly before we get into the episode, I just want to thank our sponsor, TLF. Thank you for sponsoring this episode. One of my favorite workout brands. I work out in them every single day. You can check them out on their website. Use my code TLF-NIKKID, NIKKID, for money off your order. What I eat in the days and mukbangs are really a hit on TikTok. Like, those videos always do well. You guys always ask me to do what I eat in the days. I have kind of backseated that. I've stopped doing those because, one, there's always somebody who has something to say about your diet. And it was like, if that food is making me feel good, if that's what I choose to eat, I don't need other people to be commenting and being like, that's too much or that's too little, or like, I don't need people to be like, oh, are you like trying to gain weight, and just give me these like backhanded. I just don't want to trigger myself if I don't have to. And I also don't want to put the idea in people's heads that what I'm eating is what they should be eating. Or if the camera is shaking, I'm sorry, T's licking herself right in front of me. She's licking herself. Like, she's taking this as her bath time right there. And it's just not. Anyways, okay. I don't want people to think that if they eat exactly like me, they're going to look exactly like me, or that they have to eat exactly like me. What I eat in the day, it's like what I eat. I eat that because I enjoy it and because that's what my body's craving. Everybody's body is different and everybody needs different things. So I kind of stopped doing those because I was like, I don't think that this is like serving my followers in a positive way. Now let's get into like mukbang. So like, mukbang is when people eat in front of the camera. I'm scrolling on TikTok and I will always get like a Wingstop mukbang. I can't help but watch them. Or like the big like Chipotle burritos. The ones that like you see a lot on your For You page are like big crazy meals, and they're just messy, and they're also like getting a little bit weird and like pornographic, and just like like they call them like feeder content, like in terms of like somebody's like watching, like paying for you to like get bigger and like eat a lot, and it's like that weird eye contact with the camera where they're like taking down a massive burrito and it's like sauce dripping everywhere, and it's just like I feel like I'm disturbing something and like this is getting weird, like that's not normal, that's not how you eat. There's that girl like Jelly Bean whatever, I don't know, everybody's been talking about her because they've noticed how like she's just been eating more and more and the content's getting weirder and weirder. All of this stuff has an impression on us. Whether we know it or not, it's like if you are consuming that content, it's going to have an effect on you. It's like similar to like if you're scrolling on TikTok and you see somebody's like lip liner that you like, or their makeup that they're using, or their like, you know, clothes or something like that, you then want to buy that thing. Like there is a heavy influence. So whether it's somebody overeating or somebody undereating, it's going to leave an imprint on your brain. I think I'm just so sensitive to that because I've had an eating disorder and I've struggled with that. I wouldn't want to trigger somebody or leave a negative impression on anybody. I always tell people to like eat intuitively, listen to your body, you know, fuel your body and listen to what's best. And like similar to like my exercises, it's like I do love sharing that stuff with you guys. I do like share my workouts, but I'm not like pushing you to do any type of thing. And I think like I promote like a balanced workout routine where like you never really see me doing the same thing every single day, and I'm not going like super heavy and crazy. Like when you guys are like, what's your workout split? It's like I really don't have one, genuinely. Like maybe it would be better if I did, because then I'd stay more routine and maybe see like better progress. But at the end of the day, it's like even if I did have like a specific split, my routine might not work for you. Like what I like to do might not be what you like to do. And I'm a huge advocate of everybody finding what works for them and doing what works for them, whether that be food, whether that be exercise, rest, like just lifestyle in general. Like you have to do what works for you because you're different, you're unique. We're all unique and we all need to cater to ourselves. I like really want to get into like what has been my journey and also just how we can overcome this negative narrative that is like going on right now. I'm really proud of myself because there's been a lot of comments about my body in the last couple months and they come and they go, but I got this one just like 2 days ago where I was wearing like my favorite pair of like vintage shorts and someone was like, oh, well, like I love you girl, but like those shorts are not made for your thighs. And it's just like, why are we saying that? But also, okay, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. That's something that would have triggered me so long ago. I would have been like, oh, great, like I'm never eating again. And I just saw that comment and I was like, first of all, I don't care about your opinion. I love those shorts and they look great on me. And second of all, like, I can't even imagine how you talk about yourself if that's how you talk about me, like somebody on the internet who you've never spoken to. Like the fact that you feel comfortable saying that is beyond me. In terms of my fitness journey, like I've always grown up really active. I've talked about this with you guys before, so I won't get too in depth with it. But like I've always been a very active person. I grew up in an active household. I grew up doing martial arts and gymnastics. My dad owns a karate school. My family was just in that fitness industry. The gym, working out was never foreign to me. Weightlifting was, though, until I went to college was when I started weightlifting. And that's when my eating disorder and excessive exercise started. I think I had struggled with exercise and over-exercise probably up until, just recently. Then I'll be honest, there's some days where I push my body too far. It probably wasn't until, though, about 2 years ago, when I started practicing yoga regularly. Like I'd done yoga a few times, but when I hurt my knee, I started practicing yoga regularly. And yoga was something that I never did. I thought like if I'm not sweating a lot, if I'm not exhausted by the end of the workout, if I just don't feel like the burn, if I don't, want to like hate my life or can't walk the next day, I was like, then that's not an exercise. I genuinely just thought that yoga was boring. I didn't think that there were any benefits to it because I was purely thinking about how many calories am I burning. I was like, that's just not an effective workout for me. That's not going to get me to my goal, which was to be the skinniest. To essentially be like emaciated. Like, that's like, no, that's not funny, but like that's actually like how my brain worked though back then. It was just like, I just wanted to be skinny. I didn't care how to get there. I just wanted to be skinny. And I sacrificed a lot of things for that. My body, my health, my mental health, everything was like, I don't care as long as I'm skinny. And I never really did any other type of like alternative exercise either. It wasn't like I was doing Pilates. It was a lot of just HIIT training, and HIIT every single day is hard on your body. I got into running. This is my relationship with running. If you're watching right now, it's a roller coaster. If you're not watching right now, I'm like making a roller coaster with my hands. I always tell my friends, if you see me running, check on my mental health. Running is my form of like self-hatred. Running is a form of self-harm for me. And when I don't mean like when I run once in a while. I mean when I run every single day. And the times that I was in my running era, and even though you guys were like, oh, you're thriving in your running era, I was like, no, I'm actually like really depressed that I'm going through something. And that's crazy because you guys would see me running on the internet and be like, oh, she's so healthy, like she's so fit and like having fun. And meanwhile, I'm fighting demons and running because I'm running away from something. Like whenever I was stressed, anxious, upset about something, getting over a guy, not wanting to think about him, or experiencing a lot of like depression, I would go on a run. Sometimes I would go on 2 runs a day because that's what I had to do. I had so much anxiety that I was running, and my relationship with running always triggers me. My motivation to run was always corrupted. It was always coming from a negative space. There were times when I was like, oh, I want to go for a run. That feels good. The days that you see me running now, it's because it feels good and I just like want to get a little run in. When I was running every single day, I was not happy. I hated my body. I hated what was going on in my mind, and I hated my reality. So I would run. I would run to the point where I just exhausted myself and like couldn't think and didn't have anxiety. Do I still think that works if you have anxiety? Yes. Like go for a walk, do a little workout, expel some extra energy. Do you have to run yourself to the ground? No. And that's what I did. I quite literally ran myself to the ground where I hurt my knee so bad that I couldn't move. I couldn't go on a walk for 3 months. It was the worst time of my life. I was in jail. The fact that I just wanted to run, one, to lose weight because I wanted to get skinny. Whenever I'm going through something, everything's disordered. My exercise, my eating, everything. And I do that thing where it's like nothing is going right in my life. What are the things I can control? My body. But I end up harming myself because when exercise is coming from that place, it's not coming from self-love. So like the healthy benefits of exercise go out the fucking window. And I'm just like, how do I get my skinniest? How do I lose the most weight? How do I control these things that are going on? Running was not a health promoting behavior for me anymore. It became extremely triggering. So I just want to take a second for us to pause right there and make you think, is the exercise that you're doing actually for you, for your health? Or is it against you? Is it not serving you? Is it harmful? Are you not leaving that exercise feeling good? Is it triggering you? If your exercise is triggering you, then you need to find a new routine or a new workout. Okay, we'll get to that in a little bit, but I just want you to like have that in the back of your head. And I'm sure you've already probably thought about that as I started talking about mine. Maybe it's running for you as well, but maybe it isn't. So when I was in like my running era, I hurt my knee so bad that I couldn't do anything, and it was a blessing in disguise. That's when I started doing yoga, and that's when I really started to appreciate yoga for what it was. And it wasn't about exercise for me, and yoga has never been about exercise for me, which is why you guys see me do yoga and then go to the gym most days. It's because I'm not going to yoga with this mindset of I need to burn as many calories, or this is going to make me skinny, or this is going to shrink my waist, or this is going to make me that, or this is going to tone me. I'm going to yoga for pure enjoyment. I'm going to yoga for my mental health. I'm just moving my body in a way that feels good for me that day, and I'm listening to my body. It is not about how many chaturangas I can do. It's not about whether or not I held a handstand in class, or, you know, can do all the abs or push-ups. It's like, that class actually makes me humble myself. Like yoga makes me really just humble myself and listen to myself, because most times I'm really competitive and I will push myself to the brink. In yoga, if I need to take a child's pose, I'll take a child's pose. Like most times you will not see me back down. It's really hard for me. Like I will when I'm running, it's like if somebody's running faster than me, or if I ran the same amount of distance yesterday, like I need to beat myself. I need to run faster and harder. If something's hurting me, I'll push through it, because it'd be so embarrassing for me to like stop. Like even when I'm lifting weights, like I'll push through it. I will push myself to the point that I hurt myself. And I just know that about me. That's just how I am. Yoga made me check myself and be like, it's okay not to push yourself. It's okay to take a child's pose. It's okay to not be doing everything that everybody around you is doing, and just do this practice for you. This is for you. This is for your mental health. And this isn't about what will my body look like after this, or how will this change my body. It wasn't about body weight for me. It was purely just about spiritual, mental health and moving my body in a way that made me feel good. And that's when things really took a turn for me. And that's when I really healed my exercise disorder, I guess you could call it. And it also healed my eating disorder in a way too. So we'll get into that afterwards. But in terms of exercise, yoga was such a blessing, and breaking my knee was such a blessing. Yoga's just been so good to me in my mental health, and it's gotten me through so many things. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've cried in a yoga studio. I could cry thinking about it. After yoga, it opened the door to so many other exercises that are low impact and made me feel so much more different than any other exercise I had done, and just felt like very health promoting and came from such a positive space. So that's why I started getting into like Pilates and yoga lattes and all these different lower impact things that, one, like didn't leave me feeling like I just hurt myself, but two, weren't about the workout itself. Yes, the workout is great, but I'm not doing these workouts because I need to lose a certain amount of weight or look a certain way. I truly do these workouts, and this is why I'm able to stay so consistent, because I genuinely enjoy them, and I'm not doing it to hit a certain weight on the scale. I'm just doing them because it's making me feel good. It isn't just about the physical perks. It's also about the mental perks. So I want you to think, with the exercises that you're doing, how are they benefiting you, not only just physically, but mentally? Are you leaving feeling better about yourself? Did you leave feeling stronger? Did you leave feeling like you just gained something from that experience? It should never like make you feel defeated. It should never be like, how many calories did I just burn? Great. No, that stuff is good. You like, if you want to track your calories, or I know a lot of people have those Whoop bands, like, but at the end of the day, we're all gonna die. Like, that's what it really comes down to. It's like, nobody cares what your Whoop score was when you're in the grave. Nobody cares that you closed your rings. We just want you to be healthy. I just want you to be healthy. I think something that's really helpful is setting an intention when you work out. Set your intention either before a workout, maybe for the week, for the month, for overall in general. Like, what is your workout intention? If your intention is just, I want to feel really strong, whatever your intention is, then when you're doing a workout, check back in and be like, is that getting me to my intention? Is that going to get me there? And if your intention is to feel good and to feel stronger, and let's say one day you're not feeling so hot, or you just need a rest day, but you're like, maybe I should push myself. Check in with your intention. If your intention's, I want to feel stronger, I want to feel good, I want to feel healthy. And if your body's asking you for a rest day, pushing yourself that day is not going to get you closer to your intention. So take a rest day. That is then serving yourself. I will say though, there are moments when you have to be able to differentiate what is you taking the easy way out. Like, you have to differentiate when you can and cannot push yourself. You can't give yourself rest days every single day. That's then you're abusing your rest days. Make sure you are able to decide when you can push yourself and when you shouldn't push yourself. And that's been huge for me too, is being like, when am I actually at failure? Am I actually, really tired? Can I actually not push through this? Or can I push through this? And if I push through this, will it help me stronger and serve me and make me better? Because there's always sometimes a mental block. Like there's some days where I don't want to work out, or there's some days when just is a little bit harder than usual, and pushing through that will make me feel better. But there's other days where pushing through that is not the answer, where staying at home and reading a book or watching TV or just maybe going on a walk is actually serving my intention rather than taking a HIIT class. So you just have to be able to decide that for yourself. But it's all about you connecting with your body and serving your body and making sure that like you're looking out for yourself and what you need. Only you know what's going on in there. I have no idea what's going on in there. Overall message, you need to rewrite the script and think, what is this exercise doing for me despite my body size, despite what my body looks like? What is this exercise doing for me? Next, I want to get into eating and disordered eating and intuitive eating and everything like that. So like I said, like running was a trigger for me. And whenever I was running excessively, I also picked up an eating disorder. I don't know why. They just always went hand in hand. And I think it was just because when I was running, I was in a negative mind space and I was approaching exercise as like, I'm doing this to lose weight. So of course, that spiraled into my eating as well. And it was like I was eating less and pushing myself more and more. And it was just extremely unhealthy. And when you're like running and over exercising and not listening to your body and pushing yourself to the point where you're actually hurting yourself and damaging yourself, of course you're ignoring your intuition and like what your body wants and needs. And that's going to translate into eating as well. And it was like I was ignoring myself at a time when I needed to be fueling my body properly. I was actually fueling my body less, and I wasn't listening to my hunger cues. I wasn't listening to anything. It was just my mindset around food. It was extremely disordered. I think intuitive eating is really fucking hard. Like, it's really fucking hard. Everybody thinks just eat intuitively, like, blah, 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 just eat intuitively. It's like, it's not that easy. Like, kids are really good at listening to their hunger cues. When we grow up, we kind of grow out of that because we start to ignore them. Whether it's you're ignoring them and you're overeating or you're ignoring them and you're undereating, that's how we've trained our brain. It's not that easy. Like, it sounds so easy to eat intuitively and listen to your body, but it's not, especially if you've been ignoring those cues for so long because of your disordered eating. It's something that you need to retrain your brain. And you can't just go from having an eating disorder to then eating intuitively, because all your cues are fucked up. Like, you're going to not want to eat. Your body's going to tell you not to eat, or your body's going to tell you to overeat. It's not going to like know the levels anymore, especially if you've been under eating. Like for me, when I was under eating, I had certain trigger foods. If I would eat like a handful of almonds, it would trigger me. If I would eat any almonds or like any nuts, like it was like my body felt like that fat. I don't know if it was like the fat of the almonds or something. My body was like, you need to get as much as possible of this. And it would always be like my trigger food. I would end up eating like an entire bag. And like so much of it, it would then just go into so many other foods. It was like, oh, if I just binge that, I can eat this, that. It was so hard for me to like eat a handful of almonds and stop. I couldn't do it. So I just stopped eating almonds in general. And even to this day, I don't really eat a lot of nuts unless it's in something and like portioned out. That's something that I will never understand. That's just my trigger food. If you are struggling with like an eating disorder of any sorts, I'm not a professional. You should absolutely speak to a professional to help you, guide you through that, because you can't just start eating intuitively one day. But I will say my relationship with food is the best it's ever been, and I have no restrictions. I have nothing that I can't have. I fully have given my body permission to eat. I want you to say to yourself right now, I give myself permission to eat. When no food is forbidden, there's not that deep desire. There's not that desperate need to go and grab it. Same with guys. They always want the girl who doesn't want them. You always want the food that you tell yourself you can't have. So if you tell yourself you can have it, you take those restrictions off it, and it's like, oh, I could eat that every single day. I could eat that any day I want. Okay, it's not as exciting anymore. Like, you can eat a whole ass birthday cake tonight if you want. You can do that. Even if it's not your birthday, you can eat a cake every single day. If you want to do that, you can do that. You're an adult. You can make that decision. Are you going to do that every single day? Probably not, because it probably won't make you feel that great. But that's you eating intuitively. It's like, you don't need to gorge yourself into it when you know that you can have it any single day. It just becomes way less exciting. It takes the thrill out of it. It takes the thrill off of any food. It takes like the label off of foods too, as good or bad. Like I don't really look at foods and like, is that good or is that bad? Yeah, there's foods that are healthier, of course. There's, foods that are better for you that actually have nutrients in them. The food itself is not good or bad, if that makes sense. Food doesn't have a moral value. Eating a banana doesn't make you a better person than if you were to like eat French fries. French fries are not the enemy. French fries are not right. They're not wrong. The banana is not right or wrong. It's like there's no moral value to food. Whatever value you've placed on that food, you've placed on it in your head mentally. You've written the narrative for that food. I used to have so many fear foods, and it sometimes they just didn't make sense. I could eat a bowl of oats. If I were to be given a bagel that had the same amount of calories in it, I would be so afraid of it. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. They're both carbs. They're both this. They're both energy. I couldn't eat the bagel because it was a bagel, but I could eat the oats. During my eating disorder, it was like, I'd be like craving like a cupcake, but I'd be like, let me eat all these other things. I'd eat like berries and dark chocolate and whatever to fill the void. That probably added up to be like more calories, more this, more that, than it would have been for me just like eat the cupcake. But like I couldn't overcome that hump to eat the cupcake because I labeled that cupcake as wrong or bad. But like, just eat the fucking cupcake. Because I wasn't thinking of food as just like food, like as something that I enjoy from my soul. Like that's just food. I was thinking of it as like calories and nutrients. And I was like, I can't eat that cupcake because that's not gonna do this and this and this for me, but this berries were. Like, listen, you should eat your berries. You should eat your nutrients, but you don't have to like label every single food for that. If you eat the cupcake, you're gonna be just fine. Enjoy it. It's not gonna make you a bad person. It's not gonna make you a better person. It's not gonna make you lose 5 pounds. It's not gonna make you gain 5 pounds either. It was so hard for me to like understand that when I was in that eating disorder. The more that I labeled my food as like, I can have this or I can't have that. Like I used to have a list on my phone of food that I could eat and food that I couldn't eat. It was so obsessive. The more that I forbid myself of certain foods, the more I obsessed over them. And the more I couldn't control myself with those foods or didn't trust myself with those foods. Like how sad is that to not be able to trust yourself with a plate of cookies? Like I couldn't trust myself to have snacks in my pantry. It's like a really tough place to be, like the mental battle of like, when you're in a binge too and feeling like you can't stop, which is crazy because you can, like all you have to do is like put it down or not eat it. Like I would know that I wasn't feeling good. I would feel my stomach not feeling good. I would feel me like feeling like I had to throw up, but I couldn't stop. And that's like was probably one of the hardest places for me to be at mentally, was when I would like eat and eat and eat and I was hurting myself, but I didn't care. I just was so out of control. And that's like the most defeating feeling, I think, is when you are no longer in control and this food is ruling your life and you don't know why and you don't know how to stop. As I'm like putting the food into my mouth, I like want to stop. Like I'm literally like, sometimes I'd be like crying and eating. Like, and I would just be like, I hate that I'm doing this, but I can't stop. I don't know what's wrong with me. I would eat that last bite and go throw it up and be like, oh, I'm done now. But then I'd like go back into the kitchen and do it again. If you're going through that, I'm really, really sorry. But just know that like can absolutely get through it. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel and you can overcome it. I've been there. I think a lot of us have been there, and it's so hard and there's so much shame around it. I no longer have like a certain day either where like I have a cheat day. I think that also put a weird restriction on me where it was like, okay, I have to eat healthy these amount of days of the week so I could have that one day that I don't. And then on that one day that I don't, I go like buck wild insane. It's like, well, that's not good either. Or it'd be like, my cheat day's on Saturday, but I got invited to dinner Thursday, so I can't go to dinner Thursday. I'm like, can we move the dinner to Saturday? And it's like, it shouldn't be controlling your life that much. Your body doesn't care if you have your cheat day on Thursday or Saturday, believe me. But like, I just had to remove that thought entirely because I was like, I can't have certain days where I feel like I need to like can eat certain things and certain days where I can't. If I wake up and I'm like, I want a burger this day, or I want a cupcake this day, or cookies, or I want to get my Pura Vida cookie, cool, you can have that. Like, me giving myself permission to do that any day of the week that I want has just healed my relationship with food. I'm not like counting the days till I get to my cheat day. It's like you can have that any day you want. So it actually results in me having less cheat days, I guess, if you want to call them. Like, I don't even want to call it that, because what I eat throughout the week is just what I'm craving. It's not like I'm holding myself to certain like boundaries or whatever. It's like, am I eating a burger every single night? No, because, that wouldn't be getting me to my overall goal, which is to feel good and healthy and, whatever. I don't think that that's healthy to do that every night. Like, anything in excess is not healthy. But if I wanted to, I could, or if I wanted to have one tonight, I could, or whatever. So it's like, I don't crave it as much because I'm not allowing myself to have it. Like, I could do it whenever I wanted. I think is a beautiful thing that you should tell yourself is that your body deserves trust and your body deserves your respect. Your body knows what it needs, and your body is smart, and it'll always tell you what's wrong with you. It'll always tell you what you need. You should trust it, and it takes a while to get there. You just have to flex that muscle. Just like you have to go to the gym to work out, you have to flex that same brain muscle of intuitive eating. And when you start intuitive eating, you have to give yourself the freedom to eat whatever you want. And if that means gaining a little bit of weight in the process, then that's your process, and that's the process. And that's happened to me whenever I intuitively eat. I would definitely gain weight. And I remember coming out of my eating disorder and allowing myself to eat whatever I wanted. And I ate out a lot. I had dessert every single night. I ate 3 solid full meals a day. And I'm just talking I'm talking big meals. And I ate all my cravings. And towards the end of that, you start to feel like a little bit like fatigued, and you're like, I actually don't want pasta again. I actually want a salad. And you start to learn again to listen to your body. And you don't crave something as much because it's like you had it, and you start to realize, oh, I can have that whenever I want. And it took me years and years, but I'm here now at this place where I can eat intuitively and I don't have any restrictions. And even just a couple days ago, if we want to talk about alcohol, and I think alcohol is something that I also, when I was healing my relationship with food and exercise and everything like that, I cut out alcohol during a lot of times in my life, because I found that alcohol obviously lowers your inhibitions, but it also was when it would trigger me to binge eat or eat a lot, because it was kind of like my excuse, but also it was me feeling like loose, and I felt like invincible, or I could do whatever I wanted when I was drunk. And it was kind of like my way of coping when I would be like, oh, I'm drunk, so I can like eat this. But I would binge or eat a lot the next day or eat a lot that night and feel so shitty. And I wasn't making decisions with my brain. I wasn't eating intuitively at that time. I was just eating whatever in sight. And that's something that I had to deal with as well, because it was also like, okay, I just started this negative spiral of like, well, I just drank, and then I ate so much because I drank, and now I have to exercise all of my food and alcohol that I just drank, but I also feel really shitty, so I have to do that in 2 days, which means today I can't eat. Like, it would just be so bad. It would just be so bad. So during my like process of, finding balance, I did cut out alcohol for a really long time. Now my relationship with alcohol is the best it's ever been too. It's weird to say relationship with alcohol, but like, I've never had a problem with alcohol. I've talked about this in my last episode. It was just something that like, I grew up, I partied a lot when I was younger, and I definitely drank enough in my, 20s, early 20s, where whatever, like, grew up in the city. All there was to do was drink and go out and party and stuff like that. So I had that phase in my life. And moving to Miami, I went through like a little month or 2 phase where I was like, going out a lot and partying and drinking. But overall, I always come back to like my baseline. And that's the same with like I was just talking about, like intuitive eating, giving yourself permission. It was like, I moved to Miami, I gave myself permission to do it all, and I did all it, and I got it out of my system, and you can't really catch me in a club anymore. It was like, I did that, and I know that I can do that every single night, any night, because I have done that. I've done the going out every single night, and it was like, I can go out tonight if I want to. Every single weekend, I'm like, I could go out, I could go to the club, I could do this. Do I want to? I don't know. Like, I just have no restrictions with that. My friend was just like, she's like, are you gonna drink again? Or what's like are you going to drink for special occasions? And I'm like, I'm not even putting a label on it like, oh, alcohol is for special occasions. It's like, I could have it whenever I want. If I want to go out and have it, I will. I haven't had it because I haven't felt like that, like, oh, I've been sober for 3 months, time to have a drink now. It's like, no, I'm not counting the days. I'm not, measuring it by any sort of thing. I'm not putting any sort of like label on it, or like alcohol's for special occasions, alcohol's for this or that, alcohol's for Saturday nights. It's like, no, alcohol's for whenever I want it. But because I've released like any pressure of it, I'm just listening to myself and I'm like, I don't want it. I don't need it. I'm not craving it because I can have it whenever I want. That's been like an amazing thing too, is to just not put any pressure on anything, whether it be alcohol, food, or exercise. And I think the biggest takeaway, like what we've learned here today, is that pressure and fixation leads to disordered eating and leads to disordered exercise. So removing the pressure, removing the boundaries that you've set for yourself will in turn create more healthier habits and healthier motivators. The last thing I want to say is, I think a lot of us, if you're younger and you're living with your parents, you're living with, like for me, my eating disorder started when I was living with a big group of girls in a sorority house, and that wasn't their fault, of course, but it's like when you're surrounded by that and like how other people are speaking and you're looking at their habits and their behaviors around food and exercise, you start to kind of take those things on. And I grew up in a household, and I think a lot of us did, and if you are still in this situation where you have parents who are almond moms, you know how we like to say that, but like that's a serious thing. I grew up with a mom. She wasn't necessarily an almond mom. Like we were an Italian household. We always had snacks out. I always had free reign of the snacks. I could eat whatever I wanted. I did eat whatever I wanted. I remember, we don't have to get into my after school snacks, but like I went in, your girl went in, and we were like the fun house who had all the snacks, and my aunt's house had zero snacks. I hated when I had to go there after school because she put restrictions. She was like, you can have one thing from the snack drawer, and it was like those little like 50-calorie packs of like snack bites, or like what were they were like those little muffins or like gummies, and I'm just like, what, like one of these and I have to wait to dinner? That's nuts. How do you live here? I'm starving. And she put those limitations, and that wasn't healthy, and I hated her house for that reason. But love my aunt now. Love it. Yeah, like I hated going there because I was like, what is this, jail? Like literally, what is this, jail? I didn't grow up in a house like that, but I will say my mom and my dad had a lot of, even my dad, had a lot of negative self-talk about their bodies. And my mom specifically, like my dad wanted her to look a certain way. So I'm sure like he fucked her up too. Like, you need to have boobs and this and that. And like your hair has to be this color. Like I can't even talk about that. But like it was like Build-A-Bear for him with my mother. And she had to look a certain way. So that put pressure on her to fit into the society's norms, but also just like what my dad wanted her to look like. So like nothing's worse than having a guy being like, you need to look like this. Like guys put a lot of pressure on girls because we see guys who like the model on Instagram with the skinny waist and the boobs and the butt, and you're just like, how he liked the picture, how am I ever supposed to look like that? And it's just like, none of that is real. It's just not real. It's not realistic. And it's like, whatever, another thing that men do that sucks. My mom also just like, I think probably grew up with her mom saying these things that were like this negative self-talk about her body. And I remember my mom would always be like, I have to lose weight, or like my thighs are so fat or jiggly, or like I have this or that. And she would always have these like pills and teas to help her poop and de-bloat and just things to make her shit. And I'm like, why are we trying to shit all the time? You don't even have a shitting problem. And it's like, God forbid you're bloated for a day. Breaking news, bloating's normal. I've literally been bloated the last 2 days. I don't know why. And I'm just like, okay, cool. The fuck? I'm massaging my stomach, but it's like, I'm not going crazy, like taking pills so that I shit it all out. It's just like my body is telling me I ate something weird and we just have to get through this together and drink water, you know? Like, I'm gonna be bloated some days. I can't always look perfect. And I'm not perfect. Your body's different every single day. You can't expect it to look the same every single day. And like, she also had like all these like diet pills. And I was just kind of like, why are we taking diet pills? You're like the tiniest little lady ever. How are we supposed to get smaller from here? Seeing her go through that, it rubbed onto me where I'm like, well, what am I supposed to look like? Like, I'm bigger than you. So are you calling me fat? Like, should I be taking diet pills? And my mom, like, honestly, I think there was a time when I was taking diet pills. Like, And she was like fine with it. Like, I don't think that they actually did anything. I don't think I consistently did it, but I like dabbled. I was like, well, she just took one. Like, should I take one? Or it was like, she's having a, whatever they call it. Like, oh, what was the fucking, there was this, oh my God, I can smell it now. There was like the smell of this Japanese tea. It was horrible. But it was like, why am I torturing myself to drink this so I take a poop? Like, relax. That's something that triggered my eating disorder in college was I started these like tiny teas or something that I had to like drink before all and after my meals to like help with my digestion. And it was like, then it would put me on this restraint of like when I could eat or when I couldn't. So I like, couldn't eat when I was out if I like forgot my tea or I didn't have access to hot water. And like that was a whole other thing. My God, that was fucking horrible. It was like, ignore your hunger cues that you're starving because you need to have your tea. That's what it was. And then that turned into a whole thing. Our parents and the people that we surround ourselves with, unfortunately, do have sometimes a negative impact on us. And that's why for me, I think of you guys as my little siblings, as my children. And I would never, ever, ever, ever want to put that negative self-talk in your head. So I'm really careful how I talk about myself on the internet, to my friends, to everybody, because you, if you're younger, and all of us are young and impressionable, honestly, and you guys are like my children. And I would never want you to feel anything but positive and good about yourself. And I know when I have kids, I'm going to be so careful with how I talk about myself in terms of like food and everything like that. Like I'm going to give them free reign. They're not able to like cook their own meals. They don't have the cognitive abilities to do that or to like know what's good for them and what's not. They need a little guidance. They do need structure, but I'm not going to be the type of parent who's like, you can't have this or you can't have that, because then when they go to their friend's house or when they do have access to it, they're going to go crazy nuts. We've all seen kids who like can't have sugar. Then you give them, you know, an ice cream cone and it's like, rah! And they like need to have like all of it, or they go to their friend's house, whatever. So if you're like dealing with a parent like that, it's so hard. I think just to like be aware of it and also maybe try to correct their behavior and be like, hey, like, I hear the way that you talk about yourself and like I don't like the way that that is making me feel because it's making me feel X, Y, and Z. And communicating that to your parent, hopefully they're adults and they understand that, and maybe you guys can work on your self-talk together and flip it into something positive. And you can both gain from that situation. Then when I had my eating disorder, I think I almost triggered my mom because she didn't handle my eating disorder well by any means. And yeah, she was like, where did this come from? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it came from you, bitch. What do you mean? Not all from you, but like, come on, like, listen to the way that you talk about yourself. And then when I was healing from my eating disorder and getting over my eating disorder, she'd still make comments. She still makes little comments. Oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to lose weight. Oh, my ass is flabby. Oh, I need to tighten up. Oh, I need to go on this diet. I'm like, you don't have to do that. You know, like I think she just grew up in that time period of like the models and the what was the diet that like posted? It was like cigarettes and wine. I don't fucking know. Like, you know how weird the time was then with like food and diet culture and everything like that. So she grew up in that era and rubbed it off onto me. And I think she still kind of has a little bit of that mindset. So I have to like just point it out to her. And I have in the past where I'm like, Mom, like, listen to how you're talking about yourself. It's not good. And these things aren't true. And she'll be like, yeah, you're right. Like, I need to change that. And when she talks about herself in that, I think she's a little bit more careful about it now because now she's like more aware and she listens to my podcast and she's heard me talk about my eating disorder and all that stuff. And she wasn't someone who I went to like help me with that really, because like I knew she struggled herself. And I think like she avoided talking about it to me, whether because she didn't know how to handle it or because it also triggered her. But like she wasn't somebody who I went to help me with that, but she knows what I went through. And I think that she's very now a lot more careful with the things that she says, but she still slips sometimes. But like maybe you just make your parent aware, because maybe they've been doing it for so long that they don't even know, or maybe they don't know how it triggers you, and they should. They're adults. We think that they should, but they don't always know. And I want you guys to make sure that you are talking about yourself in a positive way, because whenever I've said this before, if you talk about yourself in a negative way, you are giving other people permission to talk about you like that. They'll think that you can say those things to yourself. If you sit there and make fun of yourself and this, that, and you think you're fat and all this stuff, like in a way, people are around you think that they can talk about you like that too. And it's just not okay and it's not right. And I think we should all be spreading positivity, and you should love yourself. I'm the biggest advocate of loving yourself and pouring love into yourself, and your thoughts create your reality. So I know it's easier said than done, but write down, I have my affirmations and everything right there, right in front of me on my mirror every single day. And keep those things at the forefront and remind yourself. And there's times when those thoughts are going to flow through you, and that's fine. Like there's moments where I have like, hey, maybe you shouldn't eat that, or maybe you should over exercise, or maybe you should, push yourself to that limit. And I have those thoughts in my brain. They come up. I'm human. But the difference now is that I don't let them consume me, and I don't immediately think that those things are true. I'm able to look at those thoughts and be like, that's not a good one, or that's not actually true, or that's not something that I'm going to actually let get to me. I'm just going to let that one pass through and kind of just like work through things now, instead of letting them consume me, and then kind of like letting my emotions in that moment to determine how I feel about myself or the decisions that I then make. Because I also know that like if I'm having an emotional day, sometimes I'm not always having the best body image day. Even today, actually, these last few days, like I said, I've been really bloated and I've just been like not feeling the best, but it hasn't. I think in the past I used to let that stop me from like going to the gym or whatever, and I don't let that happen anymore. I kind of just tell myself like, hey, like bloating's normal. Like I know I'm looking at myself really judgy, and I'm, focusing on it, but other people aren't looking at me like that. But also like, who the fuck cares? It's fucking normal. Yeah. Like I think like people think because I work out every day that like for some reason I don't get bloated, and that's not true. I'm a human. I have my bad days. I have days where I think I'm fat and I'm not. I have days where I'm just not feeling my best for no particular reason. You just have those days. Today I had like a bad makeup day. I'm having an ugly girl day. I woke up and I just like don't feel pretty. Like I put on my makeup and I was like, it's just not hitting the same. I tried to do my lip liner, just like did it twice, and I was like, this is horrible. Like something's not right. The color, it's the same color I use every day. For some reason it looked different today. I didn't like it, and I had to just wipe it off entirely because I was getting so frustrated. And I was just like, all right, like this is just not, I'm just having like a bad body image day, but I'm not letting it consume me, and I'm not letting it dictate the rest of my day or dictate my mood. It's just like, it is what it is. Throw on a sweatsuit, take off your lip, just do a gloss, and we ride. We push through, we grind it out, and it is what it is. And tomorrow I'm going to wake up probably feeling like the baddest bitch in America, and that's just how these things go. That was the end of today's episode. We touched on so many things. So I hope that you gain something from this, and I hope that you guys know I'm always rooting for your success and your happiness, and I love you all so fucking much. I'm your biggest motivator. I'm always on your team. I'm always on your side, and you just have to find the routine that works for your body and what makes you feel good, because at the end of the day, that's all that fucking matters, is what's going on the inside. That's all I care about. And the outside stuff will come if you just focus on your inside and you listen to the inside and what you want. The outside stuff will come. So anyways, that's it for today's episode. Please, if you listen to today's episode, or if you think it would help a friend, feel free to share it. Tag me on Instagram. I love when you guys tag me that you listened, and spread the love and put people on to Girl Therapy. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at Nicole Doyon, on Snapchat at Nicole Doyon, on TikTok Nicole_Doyon, and here on YouTube Nicole Doyon. I love you all so fucking much, but make sure that I never love you more than you love yourself. I hope you have a fabulous fucking week, and I will see you next week. Bye.